Welcome. My name is Laura Domensic. I'm the executive director here at the Erie Art Museum. And it is my pleasure to introduce Cheryl Capezzuti. She is one of the exhibiting artists in the Associated Artists of Pittsburgh exhibition that's in the Customs House. It's the 111th exhibition, and we're pleased to have some of her sculptures in that exhibition. Cheryl has been using the discards of American life as sculptural media to explore who we are for almost 30 years. Her sculpture is embedded in our times and has evolved from an engagement with ordinary, everyday experiences to wider, universal context in an increasingly challenging world, all while continually exploring the possibilities of her chosen materials. She's been involved in the community, and the Pittsburgh community specifically, but certainly also nationally, with her Giant Puppet Dance Club, which is a community-powered dance experience, Puppets to Go at the Braddock Carnegie Free Library, which is a lending library of giant puppets, the National Lint Project, which is an ongoing venture that features sculptures made from the donated dryer lint and hundreds of collected letters about doing laundry. And she is currently a visual arts faculty at the Falk Lab School at the University of Pittsburgh. And she has been a Pennsylvania Council on the Artist in Residence with the Pittsburgh Center for the Arts, which is where I met her. So thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Thanks for taking this beautiful Saturday to come and spend a little time thinking about art with me. And I'm just thrilled to be here, and it's really nice to have the opportunity to exhibit in this space, and I hope you've had a chance to check out the 111th exhibition, and if not, hopefully you'll have a chance to do that after this chit-chat. So I like to draw my talks, so you're going to see a few of my drawings as I'm talking to kind of like keep this thing on track. I am going to talk a little bit about dryer lint today. Actually, I'm going to talk a lot about dryer lint, but it's not really about, and the work that is in the exhibition here is made entirely out of dryer lint with an aluminum structure underneath. And I'm going to be thinking a lot about the sort of the debris of our world and the stuff. And I will also say that there's some questions that I'm going to be asking you to think about and respond to. So hopefully this becomes a little more interactive than me just like blabbering on to you about dryer lint. And it's not exclusively about dryer lint, it's really about stuff. Like we're surrounded by the stuff of our world. And I've always said, like, I try to be an anti-stuff person, but it is so hard to be anti-stuff. We're just inundated with it. But there was I want to start out just thinking about, this is a book that kind of informed my thoughts on stuff and life and magic in the world. And this is a book that I was kind of reading when I first started my work with dryer lint in the mid-1990s. Has anyone read Invisible Cities? I love this book. It's not a novel, it's not a poem, it's just like a whole bunch of very short stories about imaginary cities. But this one, the city of Leonia, always stuck with me. So this is one little, I might not even read the whole thing. I'm going to read the whole thing because it kind of sets the stage for like my brain space when I'm thinking about my work. The city of Leonia refashions itself every day. Every morning, the people wake up between fresh sheets, wash with just unwrapped cakes of soap, wear brand new clothing, and take the latest model refrigerator take out still unopened tins, listening to the last-minute jingles from the most up-to-date radio. On the sidewalks, encased in spotless plastic bags, the remains of yesterday's Leonia await the garbage truck. Not only just squeezed tubes of toothpaste and blown-out light bulbs, newspapers, containers, and wrappings, but also boilers, encyclopedias, pianos, porcelain dinner services. It's not so much by the things that each day are manufactured, sold, and bought that you can measure Leonia's opulence, but rather by the things each day that are thrown away to make room for the new. So you begin to wonder if Leonia's true passion is really, as they say, the enjoyment of new things and not, instead, the joy of expelling, discarding, cleansing itself of a recurring impurity. The fact is the street cleaners are welcomed like angels. This is just one of, I think there's like 52 cities in this book. They're all imaginary and supposedly told by Marco Polo to Kubla Khan about his travels around the world. But what always stuck with me about this story is this idea of stuff. Like we've got, we want new things, right? But where do all the old things go? And that is, I think that what happens in my work as well is I'm thinking about the old things and the new things and how that's wrapped up into who we are. And the idea of living in the dichotomy of stuff, right? That things can be ugly and beautiful at the same time, and that the stuff in our world poses both positives and negatives to us as humans. Like it elevates us in some way. Like I bought new shoes right here. I bought them just a couple of days ago. And you know, I'm an anti-stuff person, so I try to shop at like the Red, White, and Blue or the Goodwill. But it's really hard to get good shoes there. And when you get new good shoes, it elevates you. Like it feels really good, right, to have brand new shoes. But like every pair of shoes I've ever worn still exists in the world somewhere, like probably in a landfill or on somebody else's feet if they were donated. That idea that like these things that make us feel happy also have like continue on when we're done with them, to me is something I think about a lot. Did you guys buy anything today? Did anyone buy anything that elevated them? That you think like, oh, that made me happy to buy that? Anyone? Coffee, right? It's a joy, right? And I like to think coffee, I mean, I suppose in some ways the particles continue to exist in the world forever, but as something that you consume, it's not necessarily in a landfill somewhere. I suppose the grounds could be if you didn't compost them. Anyone else have something that they bought that brought them joy today, or even this week, something that you're like, this elevates me, it makes me like kind of feel good? No one's shopping. Okay, that's fine. There's also like this sense of stuff that's overwhelming, right? I think about the big house, like cleaning out. This is where my grandmother lived in Butler, PA, and my great-grandmother lived on the 3rd floor, and my grandmother lived there for about 60 years. And cleaning out the big house of stuff is huge. Has anyone... this is included in her collection in the big house. Has anyone ever had to clean out a big house full of stuff? You feel it, like there's just mountains of objects, all that have meaning, right? Or maybe they don't all have meaning, but a lot of meaning wrapped up in it that's so hard to part with. But like you can't just put more of that stuff into your house. How many people would put more of that stuff into their house? Yeah, I know, I hear you. My grandmother, I think I come from a kind of a long line of goofballs. So my grandmother was a collector of wind-up toys. And this is sort of off track, but maybe this is where like imagination comes from. I remember being like 17 or 18, like old enough to drive, and my brother and I driving up to the big house, my grandmother not expecting us. And we could hear her, she played the piano all the time. We could hear her playing the piano as we walked up, and we're listening, and we're like ringing her doorbell. She had a really loud doorbell, and she doesn't come. She's playing and playing. And we keep ringing and ringing, and we're pounding and pounding. And finally she comes to the door, and instead of saying hello, she says, "Oh, hurry up." My grandmother had like 50 wind-up toys set up in an audience around her piano by herself at home. And said, "Here, help me wind them up." And we wound them up, all the wind-up toys. So they're like, and then she played a concert for wind-up toys. And like, how could you get rid of those wind-up toys, right? But like, what do you do with 50 wind-up toys? And then what does that do to memory? You know what I mean? Like for me, like I think, maybe that's where I got it, you know, like all the crazy ideas that come into my mind. Because this is my grandmother not knowing we were coming, what she's doing with her life. And I think that idea of that the stuff around us can like bring us joy is exciting. I already asked that question. Have you had to clean out that house yet? And little girls in front, someday you're going to have to do that too. Unless you have an anti-stuff mom. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I like to think I'm an anti-stuff mom, and I still have so much stuff. Um, so as we're thinking about dichotomy, like that idea that like you can love things and kind of hate them at the same time because you're like, what do I do with all this stuff? I had another experience about like thinking about stuff. I lived in Italy for some period of time when I was young, and I remember going, unpacking my suitcase and unpacking my deodorant, and it was in a package because I had just bought it, and it had like a cardboard box, and then there was like plastic around that, and it was like all this stuff, and I went to throw it away, and the family I was living with didn't have a trash can. Like, I couldn't find the trash can. There was one in the bathroom. I couldn't find it in my room. And I had to ask the mother, like, where do you throw things away? And she's like, oh, we try not to. But, you know, like here, you can put it here. And they had like this little teeny tiny trash can, like this big, where they put the things because they didn't have trash. They like grew the food that they ate. They baked the bread that they ate. The mother, like it was a family of four, like mom, dad, two little kids. They each owned 4 outfits, and they could wash them all in one load of laundry and hang them to dry. You know, they had dress shoes and regular shoes, but that was it. And I remember thinking like, wow, it's so different than the world that we live in, and so like kind of beautiful. What have you guys thrown away today? Can anyone think of something they've thrown away? Yeah. What else? Give me 3 things we've thrown away. Coffee cups. Eggshells. Yeah. I mean, it's just like it's a constant thing. Now, of course, they were composting in Italy, and I think more and more Americans are composting, like getting rid of stuff. But that the idea of the things that we discard, they challenge us to think like, where does it go? But they also in some way like document who we are, right? I remember on that same, whoops, I'm going the wrong way. On that same trip to Italy, visiting Monte Testaccio. Does anyone know what this is? This is an ancient Roman landfill. Yeah, and this whole mountain is earthenware pots that were used to ship olive oil because they recycled most of the pottery and things they used, but once you used it for olive oil, like the olive oil seeped into it and it couldn't be used for anything else. And so it's not like we invented the landfill, right? But this idea that it tells us something about who we are, something about what's important, what we leave behind, right? But also, like my grandmother's wind-up toys, I don't know where they all are. I saved 5 of them. Like, they told something about who she was, too. And I wonder, like that a couple thousand years in the future, what people are going to be thinking about us as humans based on the landfills and the things that we discard and leave behind. I think about that a lot. Now, there's part of me that wants to ignore a little bit, right? Like, doesn't want to think about it. I'm sure you've heard, like, this Greenpeace and National Geographic are always talking about this. Like, every toothbrush that you've ever used in your life and every toothbrush that has been made for a person to use since the 1930s still exists in our world. I wish I could ignore that. But that idea that, like, things don't just go away even when we don't have them anymore is something that I wish I could ignore. Is there anything you wish you could ignore? Like things that like realities about American culture that you wish weren't true, related to stuff? All of it. So much stuff, right?
Where our recycling goes.
Right. I mean, it's like, wish.
Like, does it matter?
Is it worth it to recycle?
I know. I did a project at Penn State a couple years ago where we were using like campus recyclables to make art for an illuminated parade. But students on campus said, half the time we're wish cycling. Like, is it what's it doing? And so I have worked really hard, both through my puppetry practice and my sculpture practice, to try to take these things that we recycle or that we discard, that we don't want, and transform them in some ways. There's our toothbrushes again. But stuff is also connected to memory, right? Like, there's the special trinket, the special objects that we collect around us that remind us of things and people that we love. My other grandmother was a doll dresser. She would make mini wedding dresses for dolls of the people that she loved that got married. And so, I love that. I mean, I don't want to display all these wedding dress dolls in my house, but that's another, that's another, I had two fabulous grandmothers, obviously, but that idea of these special, maybe this is bigger than a trinket, but the idea that objects mean something, they're beautiful. And every doll that she sewed a dress for was for someone that she loved. And they're beautiful, and they're now some of them are 60 years old. I don't know who they were made for. Some of them went to the people that she made them for. Some she just did for fun. She'd take a picture at the wedding and then come home and see if she could make that dress. And I think about the objects like that help us recall something special and that you want to keep forever. What objects help you recall something that you want to keep forever? Photo albums. Yeah, absolutely. They bring so many memories to mind. Right, clothing. Yeah, the jacket, the brooch, the earring. Yeah. Anything else you can think of that you want to remember forever? That makes that object that helps you or makes you want to remember something forever? Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, handwritten recipes are little treasures, but and food connects us to the people that we love as well. So these are the kind of things that are swirling in my mind, living in this dichotomy of stuff. And I think that I actually find a lot of beauty in stuff. I make things every day. Right? And I look at the things I make and think, oh man, that's going to be stuff someday instead of something that feels valuable to me. At least it's possible. And the ugliness of sort of American culture, the idea that we're just always making more and wanting more and looking for more. And this is sort of kind of like the bulldog, they're ugly and beautiful at the same time. I threw that in just because it made me smile. But the idea that an object, an idea, the stuff in our world can contain both or can contain all of that. I also put this bulldog in because one of the artworks upstairs is actually connected to my brother. And when I was in college, my dad used to give me my money for rent at the beginning of the semester so that I could practice budgeting. And one year, my junior year of high school, instead of budgeting, I bought my brother a bulldog puppy with my rent money. And it still makes me smile. I shouldn't have done that. That was don't do that, girls, when you grow up. But I don't know. It was just one of those random things that makes me smile. But it sort of captures that idea of stuff. So all of these kinds of things are the things that I'm thinking about as I'm making, particularly in my work with dryer lint, about how does the work sort of connect to all of these ways of being with stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So yeah, the work here in the show and most of the sculptural work right now, and even a lot of the puppetry work I'm doing at this point in my life uses, dryer lint, the debris of us, as a sculptural medium. There are millions of tons of dryer lint produced every year. We think of it as like kind of ephemeral, like this light, fluffy stuff that you clean out. I don't know. I think it's beautiful. I also think it's ugly. Like you're holding both. But millions of tons of just like, it's like our waste fiber, right, that's produced every year. And of course, like I've been an artist in residence in a laundromat. So like you see like these big containers where they pull out like all of this lint every single day, all day. And you think like, and that's just like one little bit of the stuff Americans generate from a process that like you don't have to do. Like there is a completely natural, fairly easy way to get your clothes dry without a machine and like speeding up this process and losing little bits of them as we go. This is my very first lint guy. I'm kind of embarrassed by him. He's like sort of, I don't know, not that cute or interesting to look at. But I started making like these little, and this guy would fit in your hand. He's little, not like the big ones upstairs. And I started making my work when a professor in graduate school challenged us to make art with something people don't think of as an art material. And I knew, I was working at an art center at that time, so I knew you could mix really anything with paste and turn it into a clay of some sort. And so I just tried like mixing lint with paste and tried a couple different things and made these little guys, and they were pretty funny. And so people started just giving me their lint, and I started making, I just called them lint guys, and giving them out to people for fun. And what people started writing me these little notes about what they washed or why they washed it. And so I started challenging people more to like dig a little bit deeper. And I started kind of like developing this interest in the idea of like where the material came from, like sort of like a project where, what's the right word? I just lost it in my head. Provenance of the lint. And sort of experimenting with that idea. And when I moved to Pittsburgh, away after college, I had friends that kind of scattered all over the country, and they told people, oh, just send this person your dryer lint and she'll send you back a dryer lint person. And so that's something I did for a long time, and then eventually landed in a laundromat where I was artist in residence for 4 years, doing art classes for people on Monday nights while they did their laundry. And it was like this way, it was less about dryer lint than it was about collecting people around that wanted to talk about ideas, that wanted to make something, that wanted to like fill the time, that sort of the time of washing and drying with conversation and creativity rather than, doing nothing. Now back to this big yellow house, because this is Grandma's house and it was pretty important. When my grandmother passed away in right around the year 2000, I got a couple wind-up toys, a lot of stuff that was gone. But the thing that was most exciting is that her last load of laundry was still in her dryer. And I collected that little bit of dryer lint from her laundry, and I made a tiny figure out of my grandma's last lint. And I started to realize, like to me, just as an individual, like how powerful that was to hold like the last little fibers of her life, like her little bits of her towels and sheets and hair and her, that I started to see more about how memory connected to this particular object in a way that I found really interesting. And so I started challenging people more to wash things that had meaning or to document the things that they washed that were meaningful to them. So that's just like my little note to myself. And so here's an example. This is all my lint from my last year living at home before moving to college. So that idea that like there's this little bit of us that could become a sculpture, an object that helps us remember something, to me is interesting and a kind of an important part of the work I'm doing these days. This is from a show at like I like to, when I exhibit in galleries, I like to do, when I'm able to, like a community experience that's outside the gallery that kind of speaks to the two. I haven't done that in Erie yet. I don't know, maybe I'll talk to Laura and we'll figure something out. But this was at a little, you know, like how people have little libraries outside their homes. This person I know has a little gallery outside their home, and I did an installation there, and you can see sort of like exhibited these little people alongside letters from people. Here's another community piece that was in a local laundromat, and then the work has been getting bigger and bigger, as you've seen here. This show was at Society for Contemporary Craft in Pittsburgh, and what I've started doing is, and these pieces are big. They're like 7 and 8 feet tall. And what I've been doing now is sort of like curating the lint that goes into the pieces so that there's stories that they're telling. And hundreds of people send me their lint. Like, I get lint in the mail all the time from people with like little notes about what they washed. And in some ways, like that idea of like taking this stuff, this debris of everyday life, and reflecting on what it came from and who we are, and taking the time to send it and write a note, in some ways that is the project. It almost doesn't even matter if it becomes something, although it always does become something. This one, I'm sure you can't read this whole thing, but I'll paraphrase this. This is a note from a woman about doing laundry where she, when her kid was a baby, she lost a baby sock, but she threw it in the sock pile anyway of unmated socks. Does anyone have a pile of unmated socks in their home? Yeah. And for years, every time she gets an unmated sock, she throws it into the pile, and this little baby sock is still there, you know, as like sort of this reminder of who her son is and how he has grown up. And so she washed that pile of socks as part of a collection of lint that she sent to me. And here's just like lots of different letters. I like Frank's Florida lint. He was my bank teller. Like, like I went in to cash a check and he like slipped me. So there's humor in this, you know, as well as sort of like a thought-provoking thing. So, you know, like we do this, and I actually hope that after this talk, you have like an aesthetic experience in your laundry room where you clean your lint trap and actually are able to see like the beauty in that material, because it really is. I mean, I think it's beautiful, but it's also, you know, it's a waste product that we don't have to have. You know, most countries, even Western countries and more developed countries, hang their clothes to dry, or at least a significantly higher percentage of the population hangs their clothes to dry. So in some ways, dryer lint is an American material. It tells us something about who we are and our need to like mechanize and speed things up and make things go faster, using more energy and all of those kinds of things that, you know, if we made a choice not to, our lives would be just as good or better. You know, we don't necessarily have to go faster to be better. But it's all, you know, like lint itself is a little bit of us. This is from a piece that I did at that Society for Contemporary Craft show from a friend who lost her brother fairly young and had saved, you know, like the baby thing. She had kind of mothered him as a child And this like little teeny tiny bit of lint was all that came from, you know, the baby clothes and blanket that she washed. But on this piece, you can see like a little tiny white dot on the circle is that baby blanket lint. And the power of, you know, like, of the material to like speak to memory to me is something that I find interesting. There's also people that hate my work, like, and I kind of love that. And like, I had someone say to me, like, ugh, like just disgusting. But this is a quote that was put on my Facebook page when I posted a picture of my work. With a typo. It reminds me of something my cat threw up on my South Side apartment carpet in 1992. Like, so mean, right, people? But I think there's like room in the work for people to feel that. Like, you want art to make you feel something, right? Like, you want art to be like, is it art? I don't know. I love the idea that it can be beautiful and like almost awful at the same time to some people, and that different people will have different perceptions of what the work is about. But I just keep going deeper and deeper into the human connection of the work that I exhibit. This is one of the pieces that's upstairs. I don't know if anyone, can you scan that code? Does that work for you guys? Try it. Anyone want to try it?
I tried, the one works. I couldn't get the second one.
Upstairs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll have to check it out. There's one on each. So what I've been doing, because like you look at objects and you don't see the letters, all of my pieces now have these tiny QR codes on them that look like a fruit sticker, like the size of your thumbnail, and they look like they're part of the debris of the work. But if you scan it, it will take you to the letters that people have written about their work. This particular piece is all from women reflecting on their mothers and washing things that remind them of their moms. And the circles in the center are always where I'm putting sort of like the lint that's connected to memories, and people can usually see the colors that are connected to theirs. And then the rest is often like sort of just everyday lint from the same people. But I like the idea of people being able to like access the stories and the work through time. This one, I won't read the whole letter, but this one, the whole piece, and this piece is actually, it's taller than me. I'm 6 feet tall, like probably 7.5 feet tall. And it's made from a family that collected it's someone I work with who gives me all of her lint. But the circles are made from washing the sweatshirts from her parents that are gone, that they wear, you know, to cozy up when they're at home. And I love the idea of the stories connected to the object. This is lint from my mom and her 2 octogenarian sisters. And she washed the baby blanket that their mom had made for her when she was born, and that wrapped all the babies in that family, and had this moment of like being able, like sort of like reflecting with my mom on that experience, but also creating this piece that feels powerful and connected to memory. I also love that their lint is pink and blue. Like, they're 80-year-old ladies with pink and blue lint, and I think that's gorgeous. This is the other piece that's upstairs in the gallery, and there's like a little bit of green lint right around the center of the circle that I washed my brother's green sweater from the 1990s. He's been gone for a long time. We miss him with a smile, but my daughter found it, who's 20 now, and like used embroidery floss to mend the little holes You know how the kids do that now? Like they like have a way of mending like the little holes in the sweaters. And now she wears it all the time. So that idea that this object, like a little bit of fuzz from that object is in a sculpture, but the object itself is still living on and creating memories, and that the story of that piece this is fairly personal, but all of us have lost people that we love, and all of us hold on to objects, and the idea that like a little bit of fiber from those objects can live on in a sculptural work of art and connect and mean something to other humans is something that's important to me. So that is my talk. I feel like I don't know. I other people I know write outlines, but I need to sketch it to come up with, to sort of like pull things together. Now, I did put a couple outtakes in here. This is my studio in Pittsburgh where I'm making the work so you can get a sense of scale. I'm getting ready for a show at the Hoyt Institute, or Hoyt Arts in Newcastle, PA, and I have another show coming up at Indiana University of Pennsylvania at the Kip Gallery, so I've been working really hard on getting work together, but not all my work is figurative. There's actually quite a few like hanging pieces. This is lint from my friend Ginger, who has had red towels now for 30 years, I think, and she just sends me her red dryer lint all the time. I've also had people send me lint from like their dog blankets and pets that they've lost or that they miss, which has been kind of an interesting series of commissions as well for me. This is at Contemporary Craft hanging the show, and I have hang a lot of birds, sort of bird-like sculptures over the work that, I don't know, in some ways lift it up. And if you're attending the workshop today, one of the options is there's going to be a lot of options to be using your contemporary discards to make, or mine, because I brought a lot of mine, to create objects that fly or objects that stand. But I thought that was kind of an interesting image. My newest work is using T-shirts, like race T-shirts and giveaway T-shirts that people have so much of. Like you get them constantly, and I don't know. I'm anti-text, so I don't wear clothes with words on them. So people give me T-shirts, and I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this. So I've been turning them into sculptures. Then here's some more new work in my studio. So that's it.